Every moment you touch a screen, you brush against the pulse of an empire you never chose to serve. It's not the brand on your phone or the logo on your laptop. It's the invisible scaffolding holding the world together, built on ownership, data, and trust. Its wealth surpasses nations, yet you'll never see its headquarters. No billboards, no slogans, no faces, only influence, diffused like light through glass. Every digital whisper, every algorithmic prediction, every transaction you make, all of it funnels upward through layers of investment vehicles, shell companies, and custodial accounts into a towering monolith of control. You think you're living freely, making your own decisions. But behind each choice is a hidden shareholder, pulling value from your every interaction. This is the empire of invisible capital, worth $20 trillion and woven into every second of your modern life. We call them companies, but they are something else entirely. Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, the quiet triumvirate that touches nearly every industry, every household, every piece of your digital existence. They own not through conquest, but through consensus. They invest, they hold, they vote, and through billions of small stakes, they command a planetary balance sheet. Every time you buy a coffee, stream a song, board a plane, or wear a brand, a fraction of that value passes through their invisible hands. They don't need to advertise. Their logo is embedded in the economy itself. They have mastered the art of omnipresence everywhere, and yet nowhere at all. Through mutual funds and ETFs, they turned ordinary citizens into the lifeblood of their empire. Your retirement account, your savings portfolio, your safe index fund all silently merge into a stream of capital that never stops moving. You believe you're investing in stability, but your capital is out in the world, owning oil, rigs, data farms, pharmaceutical giants, and weapons manufacturers. The money you earn on your desk job might fuel a war on the other side of the planet, or sustain the algorithm that decides your credit score. And yet, you remain unaware, checking charts on your phone, smiling when your balance ticks upward. The system rewards your ignorance because your trust is the foundation it stands on. It's not a secret, it's design. Ownership has become fractal. One fund owning another, one institution owning both sides of a competition. It ensures that no single collapse, no scandal, no lawsuit can bring the whole thing down. Every time you think you're choosing between rivals Coke or Pepsi, Apple or Microsoft, Exxon or Chevron, you're really choosing between subsidiaries of the same parent capital. The true power of this structure isn't control, it's insulation. It's the ability to own everything and answer to no one. Every CEO bows to the same unseen shareholders, each chasing a higher quarterly return, each bound to the same infinite cycle of profit. To understand this empire, you must learn to see without being shown. Its architects don't hide behind closed doors, they simply hide behind complexity. The power is distributed, automated, and diffused through code, policy, and passive investment. It doesn't need to deceive you, only to overwhelm you. Every graph, every market movement, every small fluctuation in a stock price is a heartbeat of this invisible organism. And while the world debates politics, culture, and innovation, this entity quietly redefines ownership itself. It's not about who owns what anymore. It's about who owns everything. Power no longer looks like palaces or parliaments. It looks like servers, spreadsheets, and signatures on contracts most will never read. What began as a simple financial service, investing for the average citizen, has evolved into an intricate web of silent governance. The world's largest asset managers don't just own companies. They own influence, subtle, systemic, and rarely questioned. Their executives attend quiet meetings with central banks, coordinate with treasury officials, and shape policies under the banner of stability. When a crisis hits, they're not the victims, they're the first responders of capital, deciding which sectors survive and which dissolve. This is not a conspiracy. It's choreography, and every move is made with surgical precision. In Washington, London, and Frankfurt, policymakers consult the same handful of financial custodians before making economic decisions that affect billions. When governments borrow, these firms underwrite. When central banks intervene, these firms execute. They are the bridge between the state and the market, the silent infrastructure of capitalism itself. In this architecture, democracy becomes dependent on liquidity. Sovereignty becomes a line item in a quarterly report. What appears as public policy is often private consensus drafted not in parliament, but in boardrooms lined with glass and silence. Power doesn't demand visibility. It thrives on anonymity. Behind the titles of CEO and fund manager are networks of intermediaries, attorneys, and shell entities that trace ownership across jurisdictions. In the Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, and Delaware, paper corporations bloom like coral reefs, invisible, intricate, and teeming with money. These entities don't evade the system. They are the system designed to blur accountability, to convert ownership into abstraction. The ultimate shareholder may not even know what they own or who profits in their name. And that's the beauty of it. A power so distributed that no one feels responsible for it. This network extends beyond geography into algorithms. Today's financial empires are no longer human in scale. They're digital ecosystems governed by code. Automated trading systems move billions in milliseconds, reallocating capital across the globe faster than any law can track. Each algorithm competes not for morality, but for momentum, optimizing not for human good, but for statistical edge. And as the machines trade, they reshape the real world, deciding the price of food, the fate of currencies, and the rise or fall of nations. In the age of automation, power isn't exercised, it's executed. The world still imagines capitalism as a battlefield, competitors fighting for dominance. But the truth is colder, more mathematical. Competition has been replaced by coordination. Through overlapping ownership, the same institutions hold stakes in every rival, every industry, every dream of independence. The network has no face, no flag, no ideology, only returns. And as it grows, it becomes less a participant and more an operating system for the planet's economy. A 20 trillion organism, decentralized yet omnipotent, invisible yet inescapable. And it doesn't need your permission, only your participation. We live in an age obsessed with choice. 1,000 brands, endless subscriptions, infinite content, all promising freedom, individuality, control. But when you peel back the layers of logos and marketing, you find the same shareholders behind them all. The grocery chains, the airlines, the tech giants, the energy suppliers. They compete in public but report to the same silent capital in private. Every decision you make, from your morning coffee to your streaming service, feeds into a single river of profit that never stops flowing upward. Choice has become performance. Ownership has become illusion. And what looks like competition is, in truth, coordination designed to make you believe you're free, while the system quietly decides for you. In every industry, the illusion is maintained through branding symbols that separate, even when ownership unites. Apple and Samsung, Ford and Toyota, Netflix and Amazon, all competitors, all owned in part by the same handful of institutional investors. This overlapping equity turns rivalry into ritual, marketing into misdirection. The consumer's passion for brand loyalty becomes the perfect disguise, a way to keep people fighting for the same masters without ever realizing it. In the empire of capital, division is strategy and perception is control. The illusion extends beyond brands, it shapes the very fabric of our democracy. Political campaigns, social movements, and public debates are all influenced by money that traces back to the same institutions. They fund both sides of the argument, ensuring no matter who wins, their interests remain untouched. It's not control through coercion, it's control through inevitability. As citizens, we believe in change, but as shareholders, we are bound to stability. The system doesn't fear revolution. It profits from it. Volatility is just another opportunity for return. The digital age has perfected this illusion. Every click, every search, every purchase feeds into predictive algorithms that know your next decision before you do. They call it personalization, but it's really containment. A carefully crafted corridor of comfort that keeps you watching, scrolling, consuming, always within reach. Never truly free. The illusion of choice has become the engine of growth, powered by your attention, refined by your data, and sold back to you as convenience. In this world, autonomy isn't lost all at once, it's traded, piece by piece, for comfort. We were promised capitalism as freedom, a market of endless opportunity where anyone could build, innovate, or compete. But what we inherit is an architecture of inevitability. The companies you trust, the products you love, the choices you defend, all are threads in the same invisible web. The illusion of choice keeps us loyal. The myth of independence keeps us obedient. And while we chase novelty, the empire consolidates, patient and unchallenged. The greatest trick of modern power is not control, it's comfort. Because when you believe you're free, you never ask who holds the key. Every empire has its architects, those who design the systems, not to serve humanity, but to manage it. In the old world, they were kings and industrialists. In the new, they are asset managers, economists, and digital financiers. They don't build monuments of stone, but infrastructures of trust, invisible networks of ownership that span continents. Their vision of wealth isn't about luxury. It's about control, precision, and permanence. They don't chase profit. They manufacture it, shaping markets the way an engineer shapes gravity. Their greatest achievement is the illusion that no one is in charge, that the system simply runs itself. But behind the symmetry of that illusion stands a handful of names whose influence reaches beyond nations. At the heart of this empire are the asset managers, custodians of trillions. They call themselves fiduciaries, promising to act in the interest of their clients. But when those clients are governments, pension funds, and entire generations, interest becomes a matter of interpretation. They decide which companies deserve survival, which industries deserve funding, and which policies deserve favor. Their letters to CEOs shape environmental strategies. Their votes determine the direction of entire economies. They are not villains, they are pragmatists. Their moral code is efficiency, their creed, stability. They don't dream of owning the world. They already do collectively, quietly, inevitably. But even the architects answer to architects. Behind the public faces of finance lie shadow layers, family offices, sovereign funds, and multi-generational trusts that have outlasted wars and recessions. These entities don't appear on television. Their addresses aren't public. They move through history like whispers, consolidating industries, influencing currencies, funding both innovation and decay. They think not in quarters or fiscal years, but in centuries. For them, money is not wealth, it's leverage, a tool to shape civilization. And while we count our salaries, they redraw the map of the future. These architects of wealth are not confined by borders. They speak in currencies, not languages. Their allegiances lie not with nations, but with networks. They see the world as a portfolio, nations as assets, populations as markets, crises as opportunities. Where others see chaos, they see liquidity. Their ability to adapt isn't political, it's mathematical. They've turned volatility into art and uncertainty into currency. They don't gamble. They hedge against the human condition itself. The architects understand one truth most of the world forgets. Money isn't real until it controls something. That's why they invest in the physical land, infrastructure, energy, and influence. They don't just own companies. They own the veins and arteries through which commerce flows, ports, pipelines, data cables, and credit systems. They've designed a world where dependency is prop. Every time you charge your phone, drive your car, or turn on a light, you're paying rent to someone you'll never meet. This isn't domination by force, it's ownership by design. And for them, that's the purest form of power imaginable. Growth, the sacred word of the modern world. Every report, every board meeting, every headline worships it like a law of nature. But nothing in nature grows forever. The architects of capital understood this long ago. They built a machine that demands infinite expansion, and an algorithm that feeds not on production, but on perception. Markets rise, not because humanity creates more, but because belief persists. The economy has become a religion, and numbers its scripture. In this system, growth is not measured by need, but by the velocity of desire, by how fast humanity can be convinced to want more. And the machine never sleeps. It cannot. If it stops growing, it dies. The machine feeds on everything: nature, time, labor, and emotion. It converts forests into revenue, oceans into logistics, attention into capital. Its genius lies in abstraction, turning the tangible into the tradable, the finite into the scalable. Oil becomes data, human effort becomes metrics, identity becomes marketing, and every transaction is another heartbeat in the system's endless rhythm. But with every surge of growth comes a hidden cost: depletion, burnout, collapse. Still, the charts rise. The shareholders smile, and the planet tightens. Like a spring, technology gave the machine new limbs: faster, stronger, more insatiable. Automation stripped away human limits, allowing capital to replicate without pause. Algorithms trade against one another in microseconds, their decisions shaping prices for the food you eat, the rent you pay, the jobs you lose. You can't see them, can't vote for them, can't hold them accountable. They are the purest reflection of their creators, programmed not for fairness or truth, but for advantage. The machine has outgrown the hands that built it, and now it optimizes not for humanity, but for its own survival. The pursuit of endless growth reshaped the human spirit itself. We've learned to measure worth in productivity, happiness in consumption, and progress in profit. Every app, every career, every dream now orbits the same gravitational center: the promise of more. But more is never enough. It's a horizon that keeps receding, demanding every ounce of energy, creativity, and faith. We were told the machine would serve us. Instead, we've become its raw material, mined for our attention, processed for our data, refined for our loyalty. And in the silence between notifications, you can almost hear it breathing. Growth once symbolized hope, the belief that tomorrow could be better than today. But now, it feels like gravity, inevitable, unstoppable, indifferent. The world's markets expand, but its people shrink in time, in health, in meaning. The machine of growth cannot distinguish creation from consumption, progress from depletion. It only knows momentum, and so it moves forward, even when forward leads to collapse. In its logic, everything, even destruction, is profitable. The question is no longer how much we can grow. It's how much we can survive. Every empire reaches a moment when control becomes more important than creation. For the architects of capital, that moment is now. They've built a world so interconnected that a single failure can ripple through every economy, every nation, every life. To protect their structure, they must monitor everything: markets, governments, people. Data has become their currency of control. Harvested, analyzed, weaponized. Each click, each transaction, each heartbeat recorded by devices you paid for, feeding systems you'll never see. We traded privacy for convenience, autonomy for access, and now the cost of that bargain is coming due. Control no longer requires force. It flows through code, policy, and compliance. The corporations don't need to censor you, they only need to design the platforms you speak on. They don't silence you, they guide you quietly through algorithms tuned for engagement, outrage, and distraction. When you buy, post, or protest, they already know what you'll do next. Freedom has become predictive, the illusion of choice calculated within the limits of profitability. And yet, the machine smiles because you believe you're still in charge. Governments, too, have learned to depend on the machine. When crises erupt, pandemics, recessions, wars, they look not to ideology, but to liquidity. Central banks print, markets absorb, and the machine grows stronger. The line between public and private has dissolved. Bailouts are now partnerships. Regulation is negotiation. The same firms that fund the future also ensure its failures. They have become both the problem and the solution, an omnipresent paradox the world can't afford to break. In their balance sheets lies the fate of nations. Control is expensive not in dollars, but in humanity. Entire generations now measure self-worth through productivity, relevance, and credit scores. Debt chains the worker to the system. Anxiety fuels consumption. Exhaustion becomes a status symbol. We call it ambition, but it is obedience disguised as progress. And while the few steer the ship, the many row harder, believing the destination is freedom. The real cost of control isn't the power they gain. It's the potential we lose. In the quiet moments between updates, between crises, between the rise and fall of stocks, you can feel the weight of the system pressing down. Subtle, yet absolute. Every institution, every platform, every habit has been engineered to sustain the illusion of order. And beneath it all lies the question no one wants to ask. What happens when control becomes the only purpose left? The system cannot stop. The machine cannot rest. And as it tightens its grip, it begins to lose the very thing that made it powerful. The unpredictable, imperfect human spirit. Every system believes it is eternal until the cracks begin to show. The empire of invisible capital is no different. Its power lies in trust. Trust in markets, in credit, in the illusion that tomorrow will always expand upon today. But trust, once fractured, spreads faster than contagion. Inflation erodes savings. Currencies falter. Data breaches expose the hidden architecture of control. For the first time, people begin to see the machinery behind their comfort and to ask the questions that were never meant to be asked. What is value? Who decides it? And what if the true wealth of humanity was never measured in numbers at all? The awakening doesn't come through revolt, but through recognition. Across the world, individuals begin to see patterns, how their labor, data, and dreams are priced, packaged, and resold. Some withdraw from the cycle, investing in what cannot be automated. Time, community, purpose. Others build new forms of value, where ownership is shared, and growth is measured not in profit, but in impact. It is slow, quiet, imperfect, but unstoppable. For every empire built on control, there comes a generation that remembers freedom. Technology, once the engine of manipulation, begins to fracture away from its masters. Decentralized systems emerge not as rebellion, but as evolution. People start to question the premise of ownership itself, exploring currencies that value transparency over secrecy, cooperation over competition. It's not a revolution in blood, but in code, a rewriting of the rules that once confined humanity to the ledger. And though the machine resists, its algorithms cannot comprehend what it cannot predict. Human empathy, creativity, and defiance. For decades, the world measured wealth by accumulation. The more you owned, the more you mattered. But the new era redefines ownership as participation. Value shifts from what you possess to what you create and contribute. Communities rise where corporations once ruled. Sustainability replaces speed. Transparency becomes currency. It is not a utopia. It is a recalibration, a return to balance. The empire doesn't fall in flames. It dissolves in irrelevance. Every age writes its own story of power, but no empire lasts forever. What endures are the values that cannot be monetized. trust, integrity, imagination. The 20 trillion company was never just a financial entity, it was a mirror, reflecting who we had become. And as that mirror cracks, what emerges is something new, a humanity rediscovering its worth beyond the market. The future won't belong to the richest or the fastest, but to those who remember that value in its purest form was never meant to be owned.